All right, so welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, picture this, if you will, a city of the future, and we're calling this city Webville.
Oh, cool.
And in Webville, the web applications, they're not just these static pages, right? They're these like dynamic, breathing digital environments.
Oh, wow.
And intelligent agents are constantly on the move in the city, coordinating everything in real time.
Interesting.
And so for anyone who uses the web,
Right.
which is basically everyone,
Yeah, pretty much.
a really crucial question comes up. Which of these automated testing tools, the well-established Selenium or the newer Playwright, are better suited to like really make sure that these really complex systems work like flawlessly?
Such a great question.
So that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Okay.
We're going to try to understand like a really important part of how the modern digital world is built and then like kept running smoothly.
I love it. That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like think of Webville as our kind of like testing ground today.
Oh.
Right. We're using this sort of fictional city to really kind of like, you know, put Selenium and Playwright through their paces, see where they excel, where they maybe, you know, struggle a little bit.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. And, you know, we're not going to get super like down in the weeds in the code and all that.
I think that's important to say.
Right. We want to use this picture of this really cool futuristic city to kind of like extract those essential like differences, you know, between these two important tools, really just to give our listeners a clear understanding of their strengths in like today's, you know, rapidly evolving tech world.
Yeah, I think it's so important too to like use an example that like anyone can understand because not everyone's a developer.
Of course not.
Or like knows the ins and outs of testing.
Right, right. So city is something everyone kind of understands.
Yeah. And we're doing all this by taking a deep dive into an article called Selenium versus Playwright, the ultimate showdown for the future of web testing.
I've heard of this one. Yeah.
It's a really, really cool article, and it actually uses this Webville concept to compare these two kind of big players in the like testing world.
Excited.
So let's get our bearings in Webville.
Right.
And first meet Selenium.
Okay.
And the article nicely describes Selenium as like the unquote seasoned elder of this digital metropolis.
That's funny.
It's like a seasoned courier, right?
Oh, okay.
Very dependable.
Yeah.
Using this vast network of established postal routes.
Okay.
And that is, you know, the HTTP request response system.
Gotcha. I like it. I like the analogy.
To deliver its messages.
Yeah. It's a really apt comparison.
Yeah.
You know, because Selenium has been around, you know, it's got a lot of experience, you know what I mean? It's been in the game.
Yeah.
And that brings, you know, some serious advantages to the table.
Okay.
First off, it's got like incredible compatibility.
Okay.
Right? Like it can interact with a huge range of like different web browsers.
Oh, wow.
You know, think of it like Chrome, Firefox, Safari, like you name it.
Yeah.
And it also supports a whole bunch of different programming languages.
Like what? Like give me some examples.
Oh, you know, like the big ones like Java, Python.
Oh, okay.
C#, you know, like all the big players. And historically, like this broad reach has been a huge plus, right?
Yeah.
For all those development teams out there working with, you know, all these different, you know, various technologies and different combinations of things.
It's like almost like a superpower.
Yeah, it's like, you know, like
to be compatible with like everything.
Yeah, it's like having a postal service that can like, you know, deliver to any building in Webville.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't matter how old it is, what kind of like infrastructure it's got. You know, it's just it gets there.
Right.
And that kind of ties into like its second big strength, which is legacy support.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for all these companies, you know, organizations in Webville, but also, you know, let's be real, in the real world too.
Right.
They're still running, you know, older systems.
Yeah, like technology moves so fast.
It does. It really does.
It's hard to always be on the cutting edge.
It is.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
And for those guys, Selenium is like offer the go-to, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like designed to work with those established, you know, ways of doing things.
Yeah. It's like the foundation that everything else is built on.
Exactly.
And it needs to be solid.
It does. It's that solid foundation, that infrastructure that's been in place for like, you know, years. And many businesses have like, you know, built their whole digital like foundation on top of that. You know what I mean?
It's like the bedrock.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the bedrock. And finally, you know, because Selenium's been around for a while, you know.
Yeah.
It's got this like huge like community
yeah.
of like users and developers and just like people who've like been working with it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's tons of documentation out there.
Oh, that's so nice. I know from like personal experience trying to learn new technologies that like that documentation can be
their break.
Like the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Makes you want to keep going.
Right.
Or like quit and give up.
Totally, totally. And there's this rich ecosystem of like plugins and frameworks that have just been built around it over time.
Oh, wow.
Right. So it's like if you run into a problem, chances are like somebody else has already run into that same problem.
Yeah.
And there's probably like a solution out there.
Yeah.
Or a helpful resource, a blog post, something, right?
A forum thread.
A forum thread, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, someone's figured it out already.
It's amazing. So it's like Selenium is this tried and true method, right? It's the established player in Webville.
For sure.
But like as Webville's evolving, you know, these super dynamic applications and like intelligent agents, the article starts to point out some areas where like maybe Selenium's approach is like showing its age a little bit. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
It's still good and dependable, but like maybe not the best.
Okay.
And so it describes the HTTP request response system as quote unquote slow and methodical.
Okay.
Which can like lead to delays, you know, in like our very fast-paced real-time Webville.
Right. Like, you know, think about it. Like if you're sending like, you know, individual letters for every interaction, you know, if it's a static page, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if it's a page that's like constantly updating with new data, you know, like a dashboard or something.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be sending and receiving just this flood of letters.
Right.
And it's going to cause all these delays. It's not going to be efficient.
So it's not as efficient.
Exactly. It's, you know, it's tried and true, but it might not be the most efficient for certain scenarios.
Gotcha. And the article says that, and this is a big one, Selenium can really struggle with dynamic content, asynchronous processes, or complex interactions.
Right.
Like these things that are like super common in modern web apps and not just in like our fictional Webville.
Totally.
And it says that this can lead to flaky tests, which like I know from talking to developers are like the bane of their existence.
Like those are the worst.
Like can you like explain to me what a flaky test is and why it's so bad?
Yeah. So a flaky test, you know, it's like it's a test that sometimes passes and sometimes it fails. But like for no obvious reason.
Yeah.
Like you run it once, it's fine.
Yeah.
Run it again, it fails.
Yeah.
Like what's going on?
Yeah.
And so it makes it like really hard to trust the results of your tests.
So like when we talk about asynchronous processes in like our city of Webville, are we talking about like things that are happening like kind of in the background?
Exactly.
Like, you know, like an agent is ordering supplies. Yeah. But it's not like interrupting the main flow of like
exactly. That's a great example, right? It's like, you know, you've got like, you know, an AI agent, you know, doing its thing in Webville. Yeah. Right. It's making decisions, it's updating things. Yeah. But it's all happening kind of behind the scenes. Yeah. And so if you're trying to test that with, you know, a tool that's like, you know, maybe not designed for that. Right. It's going to struggle. Right. Because it's not going to be able to see those like rapid changes. Right. You know, it's not going to be able to keep up. Yeah. And so your tests are going to be unreliable.
So like they're going to miss things.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like trying to listen to a conversation where somebody's like talking really fast, right? And you're only catching like every other word. Yeah. You're not getting the full picture.
So it's like Selenium's not able to keep up with the speed of like what's happening in these dynamic applications.
Yeah. It's not that it can't do it at all. It's just it wasn't really designed for that. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, so we have the experienced Selenium. Yeah. Right.
The veteran,
yeah. Navigating Webville with its like well-worn routes. Right. But facing these new challenges with this like rapidly modernizing city. Totally. Now let's meet the quote-unquote nimble newcomer.
All right.
Which is Playwright.
Playwright.
And the article describes Playwright as a high-speed communication line, leveraging WebSockets for a constant real-time connection.
Oh, I like that.
Which sounds way more modern than like a postal service.
Yeah, totally.
Like we're talking fiber optic cables here, not like letters and envelopes.
Yeah, it's a very different like way of communicating.
Yeah.
Right. And it really like addresses like head on a lot of the limitations that we were just talking about with Selenium. So one of Playwright's like big strengths is this real-time communication using WebSockets.
Okay, now break that down for me.
Okay, so WebSockets, think of it as like a persistent, two-way street for data.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So instead of that kind of like back and forth of website requests, it's like having this constant like open pipe, between the testing tool and the web application.
Oh.
Allowing for like, instant updates and interactions.
So it's constantly, it's like having a direct, always open line of communication, which is like perfect for those real-time interactions.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because if Webville is like this really fast-paced city, everything's happening really fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you need a tool that can like keep up.
Totally.
Yeah. And it's like having a conversation, like with somebody where you're both like responding to each other immediately.
Right.
There's no delay.
Yeah.
It's that kind of like seamless interaction.
Okay. And the article says that Playwright can handle dynamic content effectively through a feature called auto-weighting.
Auto-weighting, yeah. It's a game changer.
Okay. So what does that mean?
Okay. So like in today's web applications.
Yeah.
Things don't always happen
instantly,
right? There's often, stuff happening in the background.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about.
Like that agent ordering supplies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And so with Selenium, you often have to like explicitly tell it.
Okay.
Like, hey, wait for this thing to appear before you try to do anything.
Yeah.
But Playwright's auto-weighting.
Yeah.
It's just smarter.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It automatically waits for elements to be in a state where you can actually interact with them.
Oh.
Right. So they're visible, they're stable, they're enabled.
So it's not going to like try to click on a button that's not even there yet.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so this like dramatically reduces those flaky tests.
Okay.
Because the test isn't failing simply because it tried to click on a button that wasn't there yet.
Right.
It's waiting, it's patient.
Yeah. So it like Playwright's more intelligent in that way.
It is.
It's not just following. Like,
it's not just blind
instructions.
Following instructions. Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna wait
exactly
till it's time to do the thing.
Totally.
Gotcha. And so the article also mentions Playwright's it uses these words precision and control.
Okay.
When executing actions.
Yeah.
And it gives the example of clicking an element with checks for visibility, stability, and enablement.
Yeah, totally. That's one of the things that's really cool about Playwright.
Okay.
Is it's designed to interact with like web elements in a really careful and reliable way.
Okay.
Right? So it's not just like sending a click command,
Right.
It's making sure that the element is actually visible to the user.
Yeah.
Right. That it's not like disabled.
Right.
And that it's, in a stable state.
Yeah.
Like it's not in the middle of animating or moving around or something like that.
Oh.
Right. And so this like multi-step verification process, it makes the tests so much more reliable.
Gotcha.
Right. Because you're actually like, you're making sure that the actions are being performed on elements that are actually there.
Yeah.
And ready to be interacted with.
Okay. So it's like it's going through this checklist to make sure that
exactly
it's all good before it does it.
Yeah, that's like a pilot, going through their pre-flight checklist.
Right.
You don't just take off. You got to make sure everything's good to go.
That's a really good analogy.
Right.
Yeah. And so
and then
when things do go wrong, it seems like Playwright has some like really good tools to help you figure out what happened.
Exactly.
The article says it has advanced debugging capabilities.
That's a big one.
Including like being able to see the network traffic and API calls, which like I don't really understand.
Yeah.
But it sounds important.
It is. It is. So, in a complex environment like our Webville here, right? being able to like kind of see like under the hood, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To see like all the requests and responses going back and forth, you know, including like those API calls that those intelligent agents are making. Like it gives you like this deep understanding of like what's actually going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It's like having X-ray vision for your application, you know?
Yeah.
You can see inside and see like how everything's connected.
Yeah, and so that can help you like troubleshoot things.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, if something's not working right, you can see like, oh, okay, this API call is failing.
Yeah.
This is why this thing is not working.
Right, right.
You know, it's super valuable.
It's like like those diagrams where it shows like the internet and how it's all connected.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, you can see like the flow of information.
Yeah.
And see where things might be getting stuck.
Okay, that's a good visual, I think.
Yeah.
And the article also mentions that Playwright supports all the like the big modern browsers.
The modern ones,
like Chromium and Firefox and WebKit.
Yeah, the key players.
But like not as many as Selenium, right?
Right.
So is that a fair trade-off? Like why?
That's a good question.
Would it support less?
Yeah, so you know, Selenium, like we were saying, it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And so it's got this like huge coverage of all these different browsers, right?
Yeah.
But Playwright, you know, it's focusing on like those browsers that are like
the big ones that everyone uses.
The big ones, the ones that are most widely used, you know, the modern ones, the ones that like most developers are targeting.
Yeah.
You know, when they're building their applications.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is that, you know, as the article says, Playwright is being adopted like really quickly.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like by developers, like they're loving it.
Yeah.
And so this like ecosystem of like supporting tools and you know resources, it's growing really fast.
So it's catching up.
It's catching up quick.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so we've been like introduced to our two players in the testing world.
Right.
Now let's see how they like actually fare when we give them a specific challenge.
All right.
And so the article describes this next generation SAAS application. Okay, and this thing is like, it's a hub for what it calls agentic AI, like capital A, designed to coordinate intricate digital workflows.
So it's like a central hub.
It is.
For all these AI agents to like communicate and do their work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
And so this sounds like, you know, kind of like the perfect example.
Yeah, it is.
Of a modern web application.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's got real-time updates, asynchronous processes, complex interactions between all these intelligent agents.
It's like the ideal test case, you know?
Yeah.
To really see how these tools stack up.
Yeah. So how did Selenium do?
Okay, so Selenium, you know, initially, it seemed like a good choice.
Right, because it can do all these different things.
Exactly. Yeah. It's got that broad reach, right?
Yeah.
But as they started testing, you know, Selenium started to struggle.
Oh, okay.
Right. With those real-time demands.
Yeah.
And the asynchronous processes.
Yeah.
Right. And so the result was, you know, latency.
Okay.
Unreliable test results.
Yeah.
You know, things weren't happening as quickly as they should.
Yeah.
And sometimes things would just like fail for no apparent reason.
Right.
And even something as simple as like clicking a button became like uncertain.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
So it's like even basic functionality.
The basic stuff wasn't working as it should.
Yeah. Why do you think Selenium struggled so much with this new type of app?
Yeah, so, you know, we were talking about the HTTP request response cycle.
Oh, all right.
Right? And that's where Selenium, you know, that's kind of like its foundation, right? And it just couldn't keep up with the speed and the complexity of this new application. Right. You know, it's like trying to have a conversation through the mail.
Right.
Right. You send a letter, you wait for a response.
Yeah.
By the time you get the response, the conversation's moved on.
Right.
Right. And so Selenium was kind of stuck in that like back and forth.
Yeah.
You know.
It's like playing phone tag.
Yeah. It's like playing phone tag. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't designed for that kind of real time, you know,
back and forth.
Back and forth, yeah.
Yeah. So now let's look at our new guy.
Okay.
Our new guy, Playwright, and how he did with the same challenge.
Okay, let's see.
And it sounds like it was a pretty stark contrast.
It was. It was a night-day difference.
Okay.
Right. So Playwright, with its WebSocket